Hi, my name is David Rippy. I am a certified hypnotherapist where I take clients into a deep hypnotic state where they can share details of a previous life. This is a chapter titled The Tragically Short Life of Laura in my book, The Immortal Soul. Enjoy.
The Tragically Short Life of Laura. The client was guided into a deep hypnotic induction and brought into a superconscious state where they were capable of exploring a past life and what they experienced afterward. I was quite taken back by whom they met on the other side and the heavenly connections they experienced. David, hypnotic induction ends. I want you to visualize another life, maybe another home, another place. And when you see it come to you, I want you to tell me what you see as you float along. Take your time. Let it develop for you. And tell me what you see. Subject, pause. I see two people arguing. David, and what are they arguing about? Subject, menial things. Pause. It seems like they have a very caustic relationship. David, are these two people married? Subject, yes. David, as you're observing this life, and these two people arguing, is one of the people you? Subject, no, they're my parents. David, they're your parents, okay. As we sit back and observe, not getting emotionally attached, just watching these two people. Where are they arguing? Subject, in a kitchen. David, can you describe the kitchen to me? What does it look like? Subject, it has oak cabinets and white countertops, and it's open. It's not very big. There's a sink by a window. David, does it look like a newer kitchen or an older kitchen? Subject, it's not new, but it's not old. David, do you remember your mother's name? Subject, Tracy. David, what was your dad's name? Subject, Andrew. David, so as you see your parents, how old do you think they are? As they're arguing in the kitchen, how old do they look? Subject, maybe in their 40s, late 30s. They look tired. It makes them look older than they are. David, and why are you observing these parents arguing? Subject, because I'm too small to be able to leave. David, and do you see yourself as a boy or a girl? Subject, I'm a girl. David, as you just observe, and we're in the kitchen together, what do you look like? Can you describe yourself? Subject, I'm 5, and I have curly blonde hair. And my mom puts it in pigtails. David, are you wearing a dress or pants or jeans or what? Subject, I'm wearing a dress. David, do you want to describe it to us? Subject, it has polka dots on it. Pause, red polka dots. David, and is it sad for you to see them argue? Subject, they argue all the time. David, do they both work? Subject, no. My mom says my dad doesn't work, he just drinks. David, and are you Caucasian? What nationality are you? Subject, my parents are white. David, now, do you see yourself as white? Subject, yeah, I'm really pale. David, and what was your name? Subject, pause, confused mumbling. David, does it start with any particular letters, do you think? Pause, waiting. Why don't we try this? Let's go into your bedroom. Go to the bedroom for me. Can you go to your room? Subject, okay. David, what does your room look like? How big is it? Subject, my room is big for me. David, let's go outside now in your yard and look at the house. As you go out through the door, just turn around and look. You're floating along in the bubble, just observing. What does your house look like? Subject, my house is white with blue shutters, and it has a front porch, and the roof hangs over the porch with a window upstairs. And there's a tree at the end of my driveway. David, can we look at your mailbox? Let's float over toward that. What number is on your mailbox? Can you see the number? Subject, immediately 482. David, 482? Subject, yeah. David, now if we walk down the street together, you are just observing in the bubble, you're going along, and I'm going with you. Let's go to the corner of your street. Can we do that together? Subject, yeah. David, let's float up next to the road sign. Tell me the name of the street. Subject, Cedar Street. David, so it looks like Cedar Street to you. Subject, hesitant, yeah. More certain, yeah. David, is there another street that crosses your street? Subject, it's something Hollow Drive. Something Hollow Drive. David, good. Now let's think really hard together. Let's go back to your house. Okay. Subject, okay. David, so let's drift back down to your house. Let's stand in the front yard, maybe by the tree. Do you have a garage? Is it attached or not attached? Subject, we have a garage. It's not attached. David, does it sit back farther from the house? Subject, yeah, but not really far. It's only a couple feet. David, and how long have you lived in this house? Subject, as long as I can remember. David, so you think maybe you came home from the hospital and you lived in that house? Subject, yeah. David, now do you see your name yet? Is there anything in your room that might tell us your name? Maybe something on a wall, a bulletin board or something? Subject, pause, I think my name is Laura. David, now let's walk back out into the kitchen together. Let's just observe and not get involved emotionally with your parents arguing. I want you to look around the kitchen, maybe the living room, or perhaps there's a desk in the house. I want you to walk up to where there are some envelopes, and I want you to look down at the envelopes. Take your time. Tell me what last name is on those envelopes. Can you do that? Subject, it's Guffey. David, like Guffy? Subject, yeah. David, and as you're looking at that envelope, what are the initials of that state? Subject, it starts with an M. David, now what letter is that second letter? Is it a vowel or a consonant? What letter does it look like? Subject, M-I. David, like an I? Subject, it's me. David, very good. Now let's just sit back and look around and just observe. Describe the living room or where everyone hangs out to me. Describe that to me. Subject, the walls are white. There's a fireplace and a couch and 2 armchairs and a rocking chair by one window. David, do you ever sit in the rocker? Do you see yourself rocking? Subject, no, my mom does. David, now let's gently go back to that envelope that you saw. Subject, okay. David, what was the name of the town in front of that me? What was the name of the town? Subject, I don't know. David, okay, do you see the letter it might start with? Take your time. Just kind of look down with your mind's eye, take your time, and tell me what letters the town starts with. Subject, it starts with C-O-N. David, okay, that's good. Is it 2 syllables? Maybe 2 or 3 or just 1? Subject, it's a long word. David, okay, so it starts with C-O-N. Now just take your time, no rush, and tell me the next 2 when you get the next 2 after C-O-N. Just take your time. Subject, pause, S-T. David, you're just looking at the envelope with me. I'm looking at it with you. Do you see C-O-N-S-T, is that correct? Subject, yes. David, now let's just be relaxed and kind of hover over the envelope. And as the other letters become more apparent to you. Subject, sharp inhale. David, you can tell me, okay? What do you see after that T? Subject, I shouldn't be going through grown-up things. A subject in a deep superconscious state is living that past life fully. In this case, it is as a very young Laura, who was probably scolded in the past for going through her parents' things. David, I'm sorry, say that again. Subject, I don't want to get yelled at. David, no one here is going to yell at you. It's just you and me all alone. You're protected, okay? So, you're not going to get yelled at, I promise you. I am here with you, and they are just arguing. They're not aware of us. All we're doing is observing. We're not touching the envelopes or their things, so it's okay. You won't get in trouble, I promise. And once we get the name, we'll go on somewhere else, okay? That's a promise. Subject, I don't want to get yelled at. David, you won't. Now, I want you to go forward if you can with me. Can we do that together? Subject, okay. David, let's not worry about the envelope now. If we went outside though, do you think there were maybe letters in the mailbox, or had the mail already been brought in today? Subject, it's sitting on the desk. David, so as we go forward, what were some of the most memorable times in this life as Laura? What do you see? What pops into your mind? Subject, I didn't have a long life. David, you didn't have a long life? Subject, no. David, can we talk about that? You're just observing. Can you do that with me? Subject, yes. David, you're very relaxed. We're just observing. Can you do this without getting emotional? Subject, yes. David, I'm going to help you through this, okay? I'm here with you. All we're doing is observing the life of Laura. We're not getting involved. It's just like reading a book. We're just looking at the life, not getting emotionally involved. Just observing from a distance. Can we do that? Subject, okay. David, it's just you and me. Okay. Subject, okay. David, does that make you feel a little better? Subject, yeah. David, nothing is going to touch us. Nothing is going to hurt us. God is on our side. Do you know who God is? Subject, yes. David, good. I want you to know He's with us. So, you have nothing to be afraid of. Okay, Laura? Subject, okay. Though I was unaware at this time where this regression was going, since the subject shared that her life as Laura was short, I intuitively felt it was important to assure her that nothing could happen to her. As mentioned, a prayer of protection is said before each reading, and often this provides comfort for the client. This sets the stage for the hypnotic induction. As this family lived up in the Michigan area and were Caucasian, I took a stab that their beliefs were probably geared around the Bible and some branch of Christianity. David, it's just you, God, and me together. And Jesus. Is that okay? Subject, yes. David, and you believe in Jesus, right? Subject, yes. David, okay, good. So, do you feel a little safer now with me and surrounded by the love and light of God and Jesus? Subject, yes. David, and the angels, right? So, all we're doing is just sitting down together, just watching something like a film of Laura. But we're watching away at a distance, like watching a movie, right? Subject, whispered, okay. David, we're not going to get involved, and we'll just talk about it. We don't have to get involved. We're just observing and not being emotional, all right? Subject, okay. David, now what did? How long did you see the life of Laura? How old was she? Pause, waiting, do you remember? Subject, she was 15. David, now we're not getting emotionally involved, dash. Anything you're holding, you're going to release, dash, anything bad or tragic with this life. We're going to just observe it and let it go so that you can move forward and heal as dash, okay? Does that sound good? Subject, okay. David, so what we're going to do is just gently observe it, and anything you've locked inside that is negative or hurtful, or makes you feel pain from the life as Laura, you're going to learn from that life and release. But you're not going to let the pain and trauma from that life hold you back in this life. Okay? Subject, yeah. Breathes deeply. David, okay, I'm here right now, holding your hand. I want you to just relax. Don't think about it, and tell me when you're ready. And you're feeling so relaxed and detached. Can you do that? Subject, breathes deeply, yeah. David, are you sure? Subject, yes. David, I'm going to send some white light into you. Do you feel your body filling up with white energetic light? Do you feel it coming down through your forehead? I want you to visualize this beautiful light and this love surrounding you now. Can you feel the love surrounding you now? Subject, I can feel it. David, can you feel that? Subject, I can feel it. David, now I want you to hold that love inside you in this beautiful bubble. You're surrounded with this beautiful bubble of light. You are just observing. You are not getting involved emotionally, and you're letting your body fill with love and light, always knowing that lives are to learn from and move on from after they're over. Not to take a life and absorb the negativity, but to learn from it and move on, like the hundreds of other lives you have had. Isn't that right? Subject: yeah. David: all right. Because the life of Laura and other lives are just one more of many lives, and this life has helped you to grow and evolve as a person, to make you the wonderful, beautiful person you are today. We all have lives. I've had many as well. So, I'm going to sit here and take us through this journey. How do you feel? Subject: I'm calm. David: good. Well, at the age of 15, what year was that? Can you tell me the year and the date? Subject: pause. It was 1972. David: so 1972. Do you see the month or the day? Subject: it was May. David: May. And what day did Laura leave? Do you remember? Subject: the 1st of May. David: so it was May 1st? Subject: yeah. David: 1972? Subject: yeah. David: now I want you to remain calm and relaxed. You feel the love and the light inside you, surrounded by a beautiful bubble. Do you feel it? Subject: yeah. David: do you know you're safe? Protected. So how did Laura's life end? Don't get emotional, just describe it to me. Pause, waiting, and it's okay, whatever you say. Subject: she slit her wrists in the bathtub. David: softly, was she sad? Subject: yes. Soft crying in background. David: okay, I want you to let go of that emotion. Don't look at it. Let's get away from it. Let's not look at the scene anymore. I'm here with you. I want you to let it go and know that we learn from past lives. The things you're sharing are going to help other people. Do you know that? Subject: I guess. David: the things you're sharing today are going to help other people in the future when they look at their lives now and the decisions they make. We're going to get away from that. And what is the next thing you see? Subject: breathes deeply. David: what do you see next? And don't get involved emotionally. Just let yourself go. Just keep yourself in the light. Just relax. And what do you see next after you've passed? Subject: I see my mom finding me. David: okay, all right, don't look anymore. And were they upset? Pause, we're just observing this life, all right? Subject: swallows, they were upset, but they could have helped me. David: they could have helped you in what way? Subject: my mom didn't listen to me. David: what do you mean, listen to you? Give me more background on that. What did you tell her that she could have heard? Subject: she didn't listen to me when I told her about what was going on. Swallows. David: and what was going on with Laura at this time? What upset you? Pause, can you tell me? We're just observing, and I'm here with you, holding your hand. So, all we're doing is recounting a life. We're not getting emotional. Can you do that? Subject: my stepbrother hurt me. David: you had a stepbrother. Subject: my parents got divorced when I was 7. And my mom remarried someone else. And he had 2 kids. David: so your parents divorced when you were 7. What was your stepfather's name? What was his name? Subject: Richard. David: did Richard live near your house on Cedar? Subject: my real dad was the one that left. David: and then Richard moved into your house? Subject: yes. David: what was Richard's last name? Do you remember? Pause, what was his last name? Subject: breathes deeply. Oh. David: just take your time. Subject: O'Hare. O'Hare. Some readers may wonder why the questions I posed at this time seem to go off on a tangent from the death scene. Recounting a scene like that is very traumatic, and I felt it was best to bring the subject's mind away from it. David: O'Hare, thanks. Now that you're older, you're 15. Now that you're older, you don't have to worry anymore about what the name of your town is. Can we look at that together? We're removed from all of this. So, I want you to remove yourself from the scene right now, and I want you now, as an older person, to give me the name of the town you lived in. Can you do that now? Since you're older and won't get in trouble? Since you're not 5? Where was that street located? What town was your house in? Subject, breathes deeply. I can't see the whole name. David, can you give me the letters again that you do see? Subject, CONST. David, good, but you can't see the next letter, huh? Subject, no. I don't know. David, now let's go forward and get away from that life as Laura. Can we do that together? Subject, okay. David, now let's go beyond that. Let's get away from that life, and let's look at where you are next. Once Laura left the earth, where do you see Laura next, after she left? Let's look at that. What do you see? Subject, pause. I stayed in my house for a long time. David, did you? Now, I know sometimes it's hard to tell how long, but if you had to estimate in Earth days or years, how long did Laura stay in the house? Roughly? Subject, 2 years. Maybe 3. David, now is that because you were afraid to leave, or you just didn't know where to go? Why did Laura stay there? Subject, I couldn't leave. David, you what? Subject, I couldn't leave. David, and why couldn't Laura leave? Subject, I felt like I was trapped there. David, so it felt like you were trapped there, and you didn't know where to go, is that correct? Subject, yeah. David, did it feel like you were kind of held there? Subject, yeah. David, so there were 2 to 3 years that Laura stayed around the house. Did you go outside of your house or just stay at your house mostly? Subject, sigh. David, and it's okay. We're not getting involved. We're just observing. And what did you do in the house? Do you remember? Subject, I tried. Pause, I tried to communicate with my mom. David, to let her know you were still okay? You were still around? Subject, she blamed herself. She changed. She started drinking a lot like my dad. I didn't want her to be sad. David, your mom became sad and started drinking. What about the stepdad? Subject, she left him, my stepdad. David, she ended up leaving him? Subject, she left him. She was by herself. David, what was your mom's name again? Subject, Tracy. David, where did Tracy go from there? Did she stay in that house or leave? Subject, she stayed. David, so after your sad situation, you stayed in the house for another couple of years. How long after you were discovered did your stepfather move out? Was it in 2 months? Less than a year? Subject, 3 months. David, and we don't have to discuss this. I think I already know the answer. So, you can just say yes or no. You don't have to give me any details. Was the stepbrother abusing you? Subject, softly, yes. David, okay, and we'll let it go at that. So as they moved out, let's move forward. You were in the house, and your mother had started drinking more because she was sad she had lost Laura. And you stayed in the house because you felt trapped and wanted to stay there because your mother was there, and you tried to get in contact with her. Is that correct? Subject, yes. David, now when you stayed there 2 to 3 years, did your mom ever look around and feel, I think I saw Laura ? Did she ever feel your presence? Subject, she did, but only when she was drunk. David, and how did you know that? How did you know she felt your presence when she was drunk? Subject, she would talk to me, and sometimes I felt like she could see me. David, so she would get drunk, and it was easier to communicate with you when she was intoxicated, is that correct? Subject, yes. David, did it make you feel good that your mom was trying to contact you? Was it reassuring? Subject, yeah, but it. David, but what? Subject, yes, but it wasn't. It wasn't a good thing. David, so you stayed there 2 to 3 years, and you stayed there because of your mother, and you felt bad. What did you do after those 3 years? Where did you go after that? Subject, when I first died, my grandma showed up. My grandma asked me if I was ready to go with her, but I said, no. I said I didn't want to leave. And she said that when I was ready that she would come back, or that I would just know where to find her. And so I stayed, but I realized my mom couldn't move on, and she couldn't live her life if she was always looking for me, because I was already gone. And it wasn't fair like that. So I left. I walked to the park my grandma used to take me to, and she was there, and we left together. David, that's nice. Were you glad to see your grandmother again? Subject, yeah. Understandably, the subject had a hard time moving on after witnessing her tragic ending. I decided to go back and re-examine her early responses, shifting her focus away from the tragedy. David, now was that your grandmother on your mother's side? Subject, yeah, my mom's mom. David, and what was your grandmother's name? Pause, do you remember? Subject, Connie. David, now let's think about this together. Your mother got married, and what was your last name again? When she got remarried? Subject, Richard's name was O'Hare. David, right, but what was your mom's married name? Subject, it was Guffey. David, right. And your grandmother? What was her name again? I'm sorry. Subject, it was Constance, but everybody called her Connie. David, and what was Constance's last name? Subject, Hill or something with an ILL. It was a short name. David, so in your mind you see Grandma was named Connie Hill? Do you remember? Subject, Hill or Mills or something like that. David, Hill or Mills, got it. Well, you think about that. If it pops in your mind, I want you to clarify that. Could you do that for me? Subject, okay. David, now where did your grandmother go? Where did she take you? Subject, it felt like we were on an elevator, but there was no elevator. And the way that time feels, it doesn't feel the same when you're moving through it. It feels like you can take one single moment or second and stretch it out, like to half a year or something, and make it longer or make it shorter. And as soon as you don't want to be there anymore, you can leave the elevator. David, so when you went in what felt like an elevator, did the doors open in some area at some time? How did that work? How did you know where to go? Did your grandmother take you where you needed to be? Subject, yeah, she had my shoulders. She was holding me. She had her arm around my shoulders. David, oh well, that must have been pretty reassuring, wasn't it? Subject, yeah, she told me that I needed to go and rest. David, now did she say goodbye to you for a while, so you could go rest? Subject, no, I went with her. David, where did your grandmother take you to rest? Subject, we went to this place. It was kind of like a hospital, but not a hospital. It was like a place where people that are tired go when they're not living anymore, when something happened to them, or when they died suddenly or in a bad way. It's somewhere that they go so that they can recharge and learn and let go, so that they can move on. David, sounds like a pretty nice place. A helpful place. Subject, yeah. David, now was your grandmother with you that whole time, or did she say, I'll be back? Subject, no, she stayed with me. David, what was your name again? Subject, my name was Laura Guffey. David, Laura Guffey. And Laura, let me ask you this. And remember, we're just observing. We're just looking at that life as Laura. How long did it seem, if we can put a time on it, in Earth time? How long were you in the hospital roughly? Subject, pause, Years, but it felt like some of those years were really, really long, and some of them were really short. David, so time really wasn't like we know it. Is that right? Subject, time is different than what we believe it to be. David, and who were the people that helped you? Were they nice and kind? What were they like? Doctors and nurses here. If we could picture a doctor or nurse today in a hospital, what were they like on the other side? Subject, they all wore purple. Like purple doctors' outfits and nurses' outfits. David, so they were all purple? Subject, yeah, purple. Like lilac. Based on soul evolution colors, purple represents the highest attainable evolvement for a soul, right under the angel kingdom dimension, and God above that. It's understandable that highly evolved souls assist those with difficult and traumatic endings, no different than highly specialized doctors assisting patients here with psychological traumas. David, and did they all seem like people that knew what they were doing? Souls that knew what they were doing? Subject, yeah, they would do healing with us. David, now as you were there, did they have names, or did they not have names, or names weren't important? Subject, I didn't know their names. David, did you see anyone that we would know today on earth as far as saints or angels? Did anyone come to see you in the hospital? Subject, Gabriel came to see me. He's an angel. David, what was Gabriel like? Subject, he was very gentle. David, was he very nice? Subject, he seemed like he was very compassionate, but that he wasn't the type of person or something that you would want to be on the bad side of. David, okay, so he seemed very, very powerful, and you were glad he was on your side, is that right? Subject, yeah. David, describe what he looks like. How much bigger was he than, say, the purple doctors and purple nurses? Subject, he was really a lot taller than them. David, and what color was he? What did he radiate? Subject, he was gold. He glowed. David, did he seem really, really powerful to you? Subject, I've never seen anything glow before, so yeah. David, so how did Gabriel come to the hospital? That's quite an honor or privilege to be able to meet an archangel. Subject, well, because Jesus was there. David, say that again. Subject, because Jesus was there. David, so Jesus was at the hospital? He came to visit? Subject, yeah, he was always there. David, so you could always feel Jesus there, is that right? Subject, yeah, but he was actually there. David, he was what? Subject, yeah, but he wasn't just a feeling, he was really there. David, okay, describe Jesus to me. Can you do that? What was he like? Subject, he had really, really nice kind eyes. He smiled a lot. He had kind of crazy hair. It was longer, and it looked like he didn't brush it that much. And his beard looked like it didn't get brushed that much either. But you almost didn't notice that about him, because he gave off some sort of energy that was really calming. He looked like he always was in a hurry when he got dressed in the morning too. He looked like he was messy. David, and what was he wearing? Subject, he always wore just pants and a shirt, like a t-shirt, usually gray. David, so when you saw him in the hospital he dressed in mostly gray pants and a shirt, but no robes or anything. Subject, no, but I knew it was him because of his hands. David, because of his hands? Subject, yeah, because his hands had scars. David, and did he say his name was Jesus, or did you just know he was Jesus? Subject, I asked him who he was, and he took my hand, and he said that I knew who he was. David, and he had scars on his hands? Is that what you told me? Subject, yeah, I could feel them. David, did it feel like scar tissue? Subject, yeah, it was raised on his bottom of his hand, on the heel of his hand. David, and what did it look like those scars were from? Subject, I knew what they were from. David, so you knew that in the life as Laura before you came to this place, is that correct? Subject, yeah, my grandma took me to church. David, okay, now to Gabriel. You said Jesus was there a lot. Was Gabriel there as much or just once in a while? Subject, just once in a while. David, what color were Jesus's eyes? Do you remember? Subject, they were dark. Maybe brown. But sometimes they looked brighter or something. David, like they glowed somehow? Subject, yeah, or just the type of eyes that feel soft. David, but knowing. Subject, well, yeah, it's Jesus. David, now you mentioned Gabriel and Jesus. Was there anyone else we might recognize today on earth? Any other saints or angels or figures from the Bible we might recognize? Or is that pretty much the only two that we might recognize that came to you? Subject: well, my grandma said that Mother Teresa ran some things there, but I never saw her. I didn't really know much about Mother Teresa. David: okay, but you had heard about her from your grandmother that she had been there on occasions? Subject: yeah, that's what I was told. David: now looking at the hospital, did you float into it? Or were you just inside it all of the sudden once you got off the elevator? Subject: it's like I was just there. David: like the elevator floor went right to it? Is that right? Subject: yeah. David: and you stepped off with your grandmother. Were you a little surprised at what you saw? Subject: yeah, I didn't think heaven was going to look like that. David: you didn't what? Subject: I didn't think heaven was going to look like that. David: so when you arrived there, who came to see you first? Was it somebody in purple? Subject: yeah, it was like a nurse or something. And David: and did she know everything about you at that time before you said anything? Subject: yeah, she said she had my case, and that she would show me where I was going to be, and that Jesus would come. David: did you feel excited when you heard that Jesus would come? Subject: I don't think excited is the word for it. David: but it was quite an honor. Subject: I don't know. I didn't know what to expect. David: right. So were you glad you had a chance to meet Jesus? Subject: I mean, yeah, who wouldn't? David: so while you were in that hospital, and you were doing different things, and you'd met Jesus, and Archangel Gabriel came on occasion, you said time was sort of hard to pinpoint. And you mentioned that some of the years seemed like they were longer and some shorter. Is that correct? Subject: yeah. David: now when you left the hospital, did your grandmother stay with you through the whole hospital experience? Subject: yes, she worked there. David: really? So, your grandmother worked at the hospital. That's pretty neat. Was she purple too? To reiterate, purple is considered the highest evolution of a soul. The color denotes a soul that has had many lives, passed many tests, and has graduated, in a sense, from Earth School or another of God's creations. All souls have a color, starting at white and then, in order, pink, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and ending with purple. The colors overlap as a soul evolves, for example, a green eventually adding some blue, as they evolve toward the next higher color. Similar to a spectrum or chakras, a soul advances through various stages in their soul evolution, earning advancing colors as they evolve. After eons, souls eventually attain the purple color designation, meaning they're highly evolved. Subject: yeah. David: well, that's nice having those connections. Subject: that's what she joked about. David: those are connections. That's great. So that was a pretty important place and a pretty special place, I think. Would you agree? Subject: yeah. David: so that's very nice. Your grandmother was there to help you and get you through this. And like you said, connections. And your grandmother laughed about that. Is that what you said? Subject: yeah, she used to joke about it. David: did she say that this is a pretty special hospital, or place, or what? Subject: she told me that I was lucky to know friends in high places. She didn't say lucky, though. She said I was blessed. David: well, that's neat. That's very neat. Now, after you left there, did your grandmother go with you and say, Dash, it's time to go on, you're fine now, or how did that work? Subject: no, she didn't go with me. Jesus said that if I wanted to leave I could, but that if I didn't, I could stay. David: so did you decide after a while, I'll go somewhere else? How long did you stay there, do you think? Subject: I don't know. I stayed there until I went back to another life. David: you stayed in the hospital until you were ready to come back in another life? Subject: yeah, because I didn't get to live that much. David: yes, let's look at that. Did you come back pretty quick after that life? Do you remember? Subject: well, yeah, I would say I did. David: within 10 or 15 Earth years maybe? Subject: I don't know if it was that few, but relatively speaking it was quickly. David: and after that life as Laura, what was your next life after that? Do you remember? Subject: yeah, I came here. David: so you came back as who you are today? Subject, yeah. David, okay, well, I am very impressed and Dash, you are a very blessed person, that's for sure. And I'm happy that you're back as Dash. So out of that life as Laura, having those experiences, what do you think was the most important thing that you learned in that life? What did you learn? Subject, that I couldn't. I couldn't expect that suicide would ever solve anything for me. David, so you realized that? That suicide wasn't the best choice? Subject, yes, I knew that was the choice that I had made, and I couldn't change it, but I felt unfulfilled, because I took my own life. Pause. And so when I decided to come back, I knew that I would have to have suffering again, so that I could learn how to overcome it and survive. David, well, I think you've accomplished that. Subject, well, I was lucky that I had my mom and dad now in this life. David, it's made it better, hasn't it? Subject, yeah, when I was Laura I didn't have good parents. David, well, let's move on and go away from that life that you had as Laura and the lessons you learned, your wonderful, strong grandmother, the opportunity to meet Archangel Gabriel and Jesus. Let's go down deeper and deeper and leave all the memories of that life, knowing that you learned from that life as Laura. Getting stronger now as Dash. Letting the pains and the hurt ebb out of the subconscious in the life as Laura, knowing you were there to learn. And you have learned. We'll just float along. We'll just leave that all behind us. You're back in your beautiful bubble above the flowers, leaving it all behind. Just floating along. Just floating along. Not thinking about anything. Just letting your body drain the hurt and pain and feeling all the energy and love in your heart, knowing that you always have the love of Jesus and your grandmother, regardless of what life you're in, and that they're always there with you, as we found out on the other side in the hospital. That strength and love is always with us regardless of the life we're in. And in the life of today, they're there for us, even though we can't see them on earth. But from what we visualize in the heavenly realms and the hospital, we know those good souls are there to help us, there to guide us through this journey of life, if we just ask for their help. And they give us strength and protection. Does that seem like it makes sense to you? Subject, MHMM, yes. David, okay, well, stay in your bubble of light, just relaxed, and I'm going to count down from 5 to 1 again. Each time I count down, you're going to let go of all the bad memories, all the trauma, as you just float down, down, down. Getting more relaxed, more comfortable. Just floating down, down, down. Knowing that we're here as souls to learn, to grow, and only through suffering do we learn the most. And I'll tell you that we know this, as Jesus showed us on the cross. The greatest lessons, the greatest wisdom only comes in suffering. That is the true path to wisdom. It is only through the feelings and the knowing gained through suffering is where we learn the most. And we gain much wisdom and experiences and learning in the process. Hard lessons we never could have duplicated in heaven because we didn't live them there. Only here is it the hardest and accelerates our soul's growth. So that is the strength you have brought forth now, and the energy that you have within you as a radiating being of light. A soul that has grown wiser and more knowledgeable as you go forth. So, as you're floating along, just relaxing, catching your breath, feeling yourself just drifting back, above the sea of flowers. As you just float above the flowers, protected in love, knowing we will always have lessons in our lives, and each lesson makes us grow. Just like your grandmother's gone through in her lives. Many, many experiences, lives, and lessons to get where she is. And that's why she's purple, because she's had the experiences and lives, and we're grateful for those above. Strive for that. So, as you hear my voice, we count from 5 to 4, in this golden bubble of light as you float along. From 4 to 3, just letting go and feeling so powerful now, because we know we live forever, we're immortal. And every time we come down to earth or another of God's creations for lessons, that we take more of the wisdom back home with us, as each journey adds something different. Finding ways to unlock the mysteries, so that we can benefit and learn from our past. And as we count from 3 to 2, we know that the key to awakening is finding ourselves, and as Hermann Hesse told us, the key to life is finding yourself. Though the lessons or experiences might be hard at times, we know that they make us stronger in the end. Our way is forward. And through these experiences we learn, we grow. And we realize how strong we are, not getting ourselves caught up in the daily illusion of life. living on the earth and the life, but also knowing that we have the ability to do things that we didn't think we could, and do lives in other places, and that's what we're here for. Share our worlds and journeys with others, our experiences, our love, and our wisdom, so that others can be helped on their journey. So as we count from 2 to 1, drifting along in your beautiful bubble, right above the flowers in your mind, just letting go, and knowing there will always be lives that aren't as memorable or pleasant to us as others. But we know that we learn from each one. There will always be balance. The universal laws support this. Learning in the process, as we all do. And all of us have had hard lives at one time or another. It's only through living those lives that we can learn and experience and grow wiser on our path. Do you feel more relaxed now? Do you feel more carefree? Subject: no. David: okay. And why don't you feel relaxed now? Tell me. Subject: pause, deep breath. David: is it wanting to break through some of the memories we encountered and let those go? Let me know. How do you feel? Subject: deep breaths. David: and we know we have Jesus on our side, and we all will do things in lives we regret later, mistakes we made that we wish we didn't. But it does not define us. It is one life of many you've had. That's what I want you to remember. I want that to register throughout your whole core. In our lives we'll always make mistakes. If you feel that you made a mistake, it does not define you as a person or a soul. So, I want you to let go of all the doubt and all of the pain, realizing that the life as Laura is just one life of many you've had. Can you do that with me? Can you let it go? Can you still hear me? Subject: heavy breathing. David: dash? Subject: yes. David: can you hear me? Can you let all of it go? Let it just exit you and flow out. Are you still dwelling on the life we just discovered? Subject: I'm still remembering it. David: I'm going to say one thing, and I want you to think very hard about this. No one is ever judged for mistakes. People make rash decisions that they regret maybe. But the thing you have to remember is, as you noticed after you got off the elevator, who held your hand? Who said, look, it's okay? Who came to see you? Subject: whispered Jesus. David: yes, that's right, Jesus came. He does not hold it against you. He loves you. We will all have lives, many lives. All of us have made our share of mistakes. He knew that what happened to drive you to suicide was not your doing. You were very upset. You were young and acted impulsively because you hurt deeply. He knows all that. He knows all that. Jesus does not judge you, and don't forget Archangel Gabriel was there. And that's why your grandmother, with her highest level of soul color, purple, said, look, Laura, we get it. Now let's just move on. Okay? You realize that, right? Subject: yes. David: Jesus met you, right? Subject: okay. David: so I want you to let all that go. There's no reason to hold that pain. Just let it go. There's no reason to hold it. There's no reason to hold it anymore. Subject: okay. David: I want you to let it all out because Jesus forgave you. Did he not forgive you? He did, didn't he? Subject: yeah. David: that's right. And who came to you? One of the top archangels? Subject: MHMM, yes. David: do you know how rare that is? Very rare. And I'll be right up front with you. I have read hundreds of past life accounts from Dr. Michael Newton, Moody Weiss, among others, doing the type of work we're doing today, and their subjects rarely if ever meet Jesus or another ascended master, let alone an archangel. This was a chance to get to know yourself better as in this life now. Jesus doesn't meet everyone that passes on. They might sense his presence, and it's rare from what I've heard to meet an archangel, okay? So, you are a very special person. Do you know that? Subject: that's what my parents think. Chuckles. David: well, you are. And they know you're special. Your mother and dad know that you're special. Isn't that correct? Subject: MHMM, yes. David: well, then you should be very proud of yourself, because that is something to be proud of. And when you leave today, what you want to come away with is not the life of Laura who tragically acted in an impulsive way when caught in a bad situation, not unlike thousands of people today who face tough situations. I have found in most cases it is easier for souls who are faced with hard lessons in a life to learn to overcome the hard lesson in the life they're living, as opposed to having to come back and repeat it in another life. You accepted these hard lessons before incarnating, and it is a better idea to learn them the first time around, because you will have to pass them eventually in another life. And as you noticed with your mother, she started drinking as a result of your suicide, and by your actions you altered her path in a negative way. Those that take their own lives or the lives of others aren't often cognizant of who they damage in the process through their actions. That can lead to other karmic backlash as well that they aren't even aware of. The fact is that you were met and healed, and you stayed in that hospital until they felt you were ready to come back or you wouldn't have come back. Do you know that? Subject, MHMM, yes. David, God and Jesus had faith in you, as well as your grandmother, or you wouldn't be here right now. You would have taken maybe another 30 to 100 Earth years, or possibly longer to reincarnate again, right? Subject, MHMM, yes. David, so they know you're strong. They know you're ready. They know that was an accident. That's all. It was impulsive. It was done without a lot of thought. But you were 15 and having a hard time. It's not unusual. I'm not saying you want to repeat it. You've learned from that, correct? Subject, MHMM, yes. David, good, you've learned from that, and that's what the lesson was all about. That's all. Because when you went into that life as Laura, you signed up for a hard life. Did you know that? Subject, MHMM, yes. David, and you came down and had a very hard life, right? Subject, yeah. David, and you learned from that life, did you not? Subject, yeah. David, a big chunk of life will be about lessons. Some lessons are painful, some good, some easy, some fun, and some horrific, right? It's about balance. Subject, yeah. David, so with that known, don't dwell on the life itself. Dwell on what you learned, how you grew from that experience. Subject, okay. David, you just want to let it go. We all have tragic lives. But they're not all tragic. And that's why Earth School has its good and bad. Sometimes you will have tougher lives than others. But each time we grow, we learn, do we not? Subject, yeah. David, so that was just one learning experience, right? Subject, yeah. David, how many lives do you think you've had? What number do you see pop into your head? What number? Subject, I don't know. David, okay. Well, it's not important. But this is just one life of many you've had. It would be like opening a book of your lives and your records and having possibly 100 or 500 different stories. Just one more story of many stories. Did you know that? Subject, no. David, well, that's how it works. Okay. Subject, MHMM, yes. David, so can we forget about that life? That was an accident and impulsive? Subject, okay. David, now let that go. Subject, sigh. David, I want you to be able to close your eyes and see that image of Jesus whenever you need him, or Archangel Gabriel. Okay. Subject, yeah. David, because you've met them. They know Dash. They know all of Dash. They know all the lives of Dash. You know that, don't you? Subject, yeah. David, and I promise you, your grandmother knows all the lives of and knows you. And it's not even just Dash, it's your soul. They all know you. You know that, right? Subject, I took care of my grandmother. I knew her. Again. I knew her again. David, in this life, or which life? Subject, here. David, in this life? Subject, yeah. David, oh, you didn't tell me that. So, it's the same one. The same grandmother you think? Subject, yeah, I know it was her. David, so the one that helped you in the hospital, right? Subject, yeah. David, Connie, right? Subject, yeah. David, Connie, what was her last name again? Subject, Hill or Mills? David, Hill or Mills. And in this life you returned the favor, didn't you? Subject, yeah, I took care of her until she died. David, isn't that amazing? How she was your grandmother in that life as Laura, and she came back in another incarnation before you, and you took care of her as an assistant in this life. This may seem confusing to some, wondering how it was possible for the subject to know her grandmother as Laura in an earlier life, and as an older woman she helped as an assistant in this life. When a soul incarnates, there is always divine soul energy you leave on the other side, and you are always connected when you splinter your energy. You are always connected to your higher self. So, what the subject experienced when she passed away, as Laura was her grandmother's divine soul helping her on the other side. A reincarnating soul's energy needs when leaving the higher realms into a new life will determine how much of their divine soul energy is left on the other side. Harder lives usually require greater amounts of energy in earthly incarnations to handle more challenging experiences and lessons. Subject, she wasn't my grandmother. She wasn't my grandma in this life. David, okay, what was she? Subject, she was my grandma then, but she was someone else's grandma now. She was Mrs. Davis. Jill Davis. I just took care of her as an assistant. David, her name was what? Subject, her name was Jill Davis. That was her name. David, so she was your grandma in the life as Laura, and an elderly woman you helped with needs in this life? Subject, yes, she was someone I took care of. That's why it happened. David, why, what happened? Subject, that's why I took care of her, because she took care of me. David, sort of like a karma type thing almost? Subject, yeah, and I was supposed to find her again. David, so you learned that on the other side before you came down as Dash, is that correct? Subject, yeah, I think Jesus told me that. David, Jesus said that you would probably come down and take care of a Jill Davis? Subject, that I would take care of someone like my grandma that took care of me. David, and you think it was Jesus that told you that? Subject, I think so. David, oh well, see how that works? Subject, yeah. David, pretty amazing how complex it is, isn't it? Subject, well, it's not as complex as you could argue it to be. It's the laws of the universe. David, now what else do the laws of the universe tell us that you remember that I'm not familiar with? Subject, well, everyone is familiar with them. It's just how you apply them. David, okay. Subject, for every action, there's a greater or equal reaction. That's a law. And everyone knows that, but it just looks different when you're not on Earth. David, I want you to tell me a little more. So on the other side, the laws are applied differently than what we know on Earth. Is that correct? Subject, yes, not different, just applied differently. David, okay. Subject, Earth is our whole world, but Earth is not the entire world, if you know what I'm saying. David, gotcha. Subject, it's just one part of a galaxy, inside of a universe, inside of other things. Everything is like nesting dolls or something. It's complicated, and it took time to make it the way that it is, and everything has to fit inside of everything else. David, that's very interesting. And you knew before you came back that your parents in this life would be your parents? Subject, yeah, and I knew my dad before. David, was that in some other life in the past with him? Subject, yeah, I think he was. Yeah, I think he was in my family in another life. David, that's very interesting. Is there anyone else in this life? Subject, my cousin. I knew my cousin. David, your cousin? Subject, yeah, I knew him, and there was a guy that I dated in college that I knew. David, you feel pretty good about that, right? Subject, yeah, he knew me. He knew me in a way that we couldn't possibly have known. I mean, we had only just met. David, so when you look at the hospital, even though you went in something like an elevator from that park. Subject, it wasn't an elevator, that's just what it felt like. David, right, because it felt like you were zooming up? Subject, yeah, it was the same sensation. David, right, so what, like a physical? Subject, no, not really. David, so it's just like all of a sudden you felt yourself rising up fast, right? Subject, yes. David, now when you got to the hospital, would that be considered still on our Earth plane? Subject, I don't think so. It didn't feel like Earth. Everything was different. David, do you think it was because it was in a lighter dimension like heaven? Subject, yeah, that's what it felt like. David, but you don't think it was on this planet? Subject, no. David, in a lighter dimension? Subject, yes, but I think it was somewhere else. David, were there a lot of patients in the hospital? Can I ask you that? Subject, it wasn't crowded, but it wasn't empty either. David, and was it hard to measure how big it really was? Subject, yeah, I can't really quantify it with words. David, it was just so big and massive, right? Subject, well, there are a lot of people in the universe. David, yeah, so that's what you noticed. Okay. Were there people from other universes besides Earth? Or other star systems? Subject, I don't know, but I think that there were. David, you thought that maybe some weren't from our planet? Subject, not where I was, but it didn't feel like we were on our planet, so I guess it's possible. David, were other people there who had a tragic ending that you met? Subject, yeah, I met people that had also killed themselves or been murdered or died from sickness or things like that. David, things that were traumatic, right? Subject, yeah, things that they didn't really want. David, I understand. Did you have things like group meetings and stuff? Subject, I wasn't into it. Well, my grandma wanted me to go to them, but I told her I wasn't going to group meetings. I thought it was silly. I just didn't like talking in them. I talked to people outside of that, but I didn't like the idea of group therapy in heaven, if you will. David, so you didn't like group therapy in heaven? Subject, yeah, it felt stupid. David, so you just kind of learned things on your own with your grandmother's help? Subject, yeah, I decided I didn't want to be in group therapy where I would be a victim and have to be treated like a victim. I wanted to help other people, and so I did. David, so after you'd been there a while, they let you talk to other people who just came in and you said, "Hi, I'm Laura, welcome?" Subject, yeah, I was like their welcome committee or something. David, so you made them feel better, kind of like your grandmother did for you? Subject, yeah, I would help them get settled. David, well, that was nice. And you enjoyed that job, right, because you felt like it was doing good things for those that had? Subject, I liked it better than sitting in group therapy. David, so did you have to sleep? You said you went to rest. Subject, yeah, but it felt more like we were in meditative states, not necessarily sleep. David, so you just relaxed and let yourself go, but not like sleeping here. Subject, no, more like a trance. David, and that helped you re-energize, right? Subject, yeah. David, did they ever put you in any type of a machine or a pyramid or anything to re-energize or help boost your energy with sound and lights? Subject, I don't know, but a lot of my freckles and moles on my skin are triangle-shaped. They all connect together to make triangles. David, okay, but you don't remember personally going inside a pyramid of glass or crystal and sitting inside it? Subject, no, but there were crystals there. David, there were crystals there? Subject, yeah. David, big ones? What kind? What are we talking about? Subject, they were mostly clear or a little bit cloudy, but it was like the walls were made of them. David, so you could walk into a room lined with crystals and it felt like they had energy coming out of them? Subject, yes. David, did it felt almost like going under? Not a good comparison, but let's say you know how some people use tanning beds in winter to get a good feeling? Subject, not like that. It was more like sunlight. David, so it was more like sunlight that was coming in and hitting you. Subject, yeah, like sitting in a window and the sun is shining in. David, it felt good, right? Subject, yeah. David, now, did you have a window in your room? Subject, I think so. David, what did you do in the room when you were done greeting people and doing other things? Subject, I didn't really sit around much. David, so you were always moving unless you were in a trance state? Subject, yeah. David, so you would go into your room and go into a trance state, or where would you go? Subject, I could just do it wherever I was. David, so you could just do it wherever. Were you floating around in a body again? Subject, no, I could if I wanted to, but I didn't all the time. David, did you have a human form? Subject, yeah. David, so you pretty much had a human form. Was it like Laura when you left? Subject, yeah, but I made myself look a little bit different, and I didn't keep the scars on my wrists. I didn't keep my wounds. David, okay. Subject, some people did. Some people chose to. Like when you're in. They tell you there's no pain in heaven, and there's no crying and no suffering. Well, that's true, but sometimes for people that died a certain way, you could still see how they died. If their head got blown off, you could see the scar around their head or something like that. But if they chose to make it go away or make it look different, they could. David, so, they had the ability to remove their wounds from another life? Subject, their disfiguration, I guess. David, but some decided to keep them. Subject, some people kept them as a way to help other people. I don't really understand that approach, but I don't know. David, well, that is amazing information. So Jesus, when you saw him on the other side, was the kind of person who didn't care about his appearance as much in a sense. His hair and beard were not as much a concern as helping others, is that correct? Subject, yeah, he just looked kind of disheveled all the time. But it was endearing in, you know, a funny way. David, and Gabriel, what did he look like? You told me he was tall, but what did he look like? Subject, I could never really see his face very well. David, was he just like a big golden ball of energy? Subject, he had a form, but he wasn't, you know, he wasn't necessarily really defined. David, but you could sort of see an image inside this energy. Subject, yeah, and apparently that's how God can be when God is in a room or your presence is there with God. David, were you able to consciously play music, or was there music in the hospital? Subject, there was a sound, like a vibration all the time. David, so there was a constant vibration. Subject, yeah. David, and it was like that all the time? Subject, yeah, it was like music, but not like music that you've ever heard. David, all right, sort of a hard to describe vibration? Would it be, and maybe you don't know this, but was it around 430 to 440 hertz, or did you have any idea? Perhaps in the heart chakra range? Subject, I don't know how to gauge it. David, where did it hit you when you were there? Throughout your whole body? Subject, you felt it in your chest. David, mostly in your chest? Subject, your chest and throat. David, isn't that interesting? Well, if you're ready, I'm ready to count up. Have we learned a lot? Subject, yeah. David, and you have shared a lot. And through your strengths and your sharing, we may be able to help others with this information. Does that sound like a good cause? Subject, yeah. David, your story may help others to see that impulsive decisions are not the way to make things better most of the time. Thinking through one's actions carefully before acting on them is usually a better idea. Does that make sense? Subject, yeah. David, okay. Well, let's count up from 1 to 5, and each time I count up this time you'll start to wake up. You're going to wake up a little more each time. Does that sound good? Subject, okay. David, and you're going to be full of energy. You now know that in your mind you met Jesus. Anytime you feel down, sad, insecure, scared, fearful, you can visualize what you have now experienced, that you have the power of reaching out your hand and having Jesus take yours. Do you realize that now? Subject, yeah. David, you didn't know that before, did you? Subject, I don't know if I knew it exactly, but... David, well, I think we all have felt Jesus personally if we want to. There is a Jesus for us in our times of need. But you've actually visualized him, which most people never have. And you also met Archangel Gabriel, which I think is very special, to say the least. And you know he's around too. So that's good. That's something that you can hold in your mind. If you can hold anything of this time, hold those images, those in your grandmother, and the lady you helped here in this life, and the work you did on the other side by helping others settle in. These are all big, big things. Okay? Subject, okay. David, let's not dwell on the impulsive behavior of a young, abused adolescent. Just let that go. That's not important. What is important is what you've learned. Isn't that correct? Subject, MHMM, yes. David, and that's past us, that's gone. That's flying out, all that pain you might have been holding without knowing it in your subconscious. All that fear, all that sadness, floated out. Replace it with the love you felt from your grandmother, from Jesus, from Archangel Gabriel, and feel their power come into you. That's all you have to take back. Frankly, that's a heck of a gift. So, you can visualize that in your mind, erasing all the negative, emotional energies from that life as Laura. Knowing you are stronger, knowing it's one life of hundreds you have had. Let's go up from 1 to 2. Rising up. Starting to feel your toes wiggle around. Feeling more warmth coming down through you. As we count from 2 to 3, feeling yourself taking a little more of a breath, stretching a little more. Rising from 3 to 4. Starting to move your legs and feeling stronger as a result and well rested, like you just took a 10-hour nap. Feeling all this energy. Not that you won't sleep tonight. But as you awaken, you feel the energy flowing down through you, knowing you have the power, and that you were just recounting another life of many you've had, which is good. We're all here for lessons. And through lessons and experiences we know more about ourselves, we know the love that's waiting for us, as we stretch from 4 to 5. Letting it all go. Just stretching, getting comfortable waking up. Breathing in and out.